Welcome back. Now that we've discussed the talks in Qatar, Zena Khudr will give us a glimpse of what Lebanon looks like after the Doha Accords.
For 18 months, Beirut's city center has been a ghost town. Anti-government protesters had sealed off the city center around Martyrs Square with a sprawling camp dubbed Tent City. Life in central Beirut was brought to a halt.
This is the same place today. Beirut city center has undergone a sudden transformation. Just look around. This whole area used to be sealed off. But today, life, at least on the surface, appears to have bounced right back to what it was before the crippling political standoff.
By late last year, around 170 businesses had closed down and 70 cafes and restaurants had stopped serving. Elise Khouri, manager of one restaurant, is thrilled at the political progress.
It was a very good step. All the families made their comeback to the region, and hopefully we'll have a very booming summer and a very fruitful year.
Other sectors share her optimism. Hotels have already reported a 30% increase in bookings compared with this time last year and are now hiring, not firing. The Ministry of Tourism expects a five-fold increase in visitors, all due to the Doha Agreement. Immediately after Doha, families from the Lebanese diaspora, like the Kanso family, started to come home.
I can't contain my happiness. I was counting the hours and the minutes. I couldn't believe it when they finally arrived.
We come here almost every summer, but this year we hadn't planned to come because of the situation. But after the Doha conference and the agreement, on the same day I went and booked our tickets.
I hope the situation stays calm so all my children can come back to me.
The Doha effect sent the property markets through the roof literally overnight. Real estate agent Joe Canaan was already reselling this block of luxury apartments for a second time before they were even completed.
Over the night, the people start to call and they want to reserve their apartment. And the next day they came and I put down payment. They was very in rush to buy. They was afraid that the price would go up. Some people come and put down payment and the seller changed his mind because he catch higher prices. So prices was going up overnight.
As night falls on the city, Beirutis of diverse religious and political loyalties announce their belief that the good times are back for now at least. For Elise, there's so much more at stake than the city's social scene.
The security gives us certain of confidence, and we are very great to come back here, see at least downtown very full of life and people.
Whether this kind of economic and social recovery can last depends on the survival of the proposed unity government.
The problem is what the Doha Agreement didn't do. It didn't guarantee any resolution to the thorny issues which have been dividing the rival camps, like the fate of Hezbollah's arms and the future relationship with Syria. Until that happens, the Lebanese spirit of living for the moment will get them through.
Joining me from Beirut is academic and political analyst IBRAHIM al-MOUSAWI, and from the studio, Professor MAKRAM-EBEID, and of course, JAMIL MROUE. I would like to start with you, IBRAHIM al-MOUSAWI. It seems like the burden is on Hezbollah today. As someone who's familiar with the stance of the position, how could the opposition, and particularly Hezbollah, promise the Lebanese now, today, after Doha, that arms will no longer be used on the streets of Lebanon?
Let me first say that this is a kind of misleading question, a very clever one, but I would say to promise the Lebanese, Hezbollah and the opposition, they constitute I would say a majority of the Lebanese. They are Lebanese themselves. And when you talk about the burden and the use of the arms, against who? Yes, the arms is going to be used against the occupation, against the aggression, against the Israelis in case they are going to attack Lebanon. The arms is going to be always to be used to defend the Lebanese and to protect the Lebanese, and this has always been the case in Lebanon.
Mr. Moussawi, just several weeks ago, there has been fights in the streets of Beirut, and Hezbollah did use the arms
This is what I was going to address. Absolutely, yes, I agree. This is what I was going to address. The thing that happened lately or recently in Beirut, actually, there had been attacks and there had been like clashes taking place in different places. You're not talking about large-scale battles and strifes that has taken place between two rivalries or whatever. You're talking about storming the capital. Yes, the capital was like taken and controlled by the opposition, and Hezbollah represents the backbone of the opposition. But I mean, taking into consideration what happened and the kind of crisis that happened, when things end well, then this is something good to
Mr.
this kind
Moussawi, let me take this to Mr. MROUE. Jamil, are you also positive that it wasn't so bad, really, in fact, and it wasn't so dangerous what happened in Beirut?
It is not certainly a full-fledged war, but it could have led to a full-fledged war, or we thought it would lead to a full-fledged war. The build-up of the opposing parties, we know the build-up of Hezbollah has been going on for 25 years. The Future Movement, Walid Jumblat, the other Christians, etc., have been amassing arms, training here and there, and so on. Even those ragtag in a delicate situation will cause a crack of the situation.
And do you think that Doha talks have guaranteed that this will not be repeated again?
Absolutely not. Absolutely. Hezbollah has a major responsibility yet to deliver to the nation, but also an equally the majority and Walid Jumblat and Saad al-Hariri have a responsibility to deliver to the nation. Both sides need to find a new ground upon which to battle politically.
I want to comment on what Ibrahim has just said. No, it was very dangerous. I think it was very dangerous. It got to a certain point. It could have led to a civil war. So let's not minimize what has happened. Today, there is we have to consider that the Doha Accord was a national achievement, and that is why we expect that there should be reconciliation, we expect that there should be compromise, and the Lebanese are ready to compromise at any cost. I'm talking about the people, in order to avoid a civil war or an escalation of violence that we have seen. This is what we're hoping.
It's been a month now. Why hasn't then been a national unity government?
This is a question that all the Lebanese are asking on a daily basis, and they're questioning why the so-called majority does not accept, I mean now with the Senura government, with the Future Movement and the others, why they won't accept to give like important portfolios for General Aoun, for example.
Let's move a bit forward with this. It seems that, as Mr. Moussawi says, because of the delay on forming the national unity government, you get the sense that sectarianism is in fact on the increase, communalism is in the increase, tension in Beirut is building up again.
Not building up again, it is replacing the phase that failed militarily to prepare for another one. This is a breather. Nothing has happened. The Doha Agreement returned the Lebanese agenda to Lebanon, gave the Lebanese parties a chance to do which they had failed to do even prior to the crisis, which is basically, what do you want? It is one thing to say, we want to preserve our arms, I'm talking about Hezbollah. It is another to answer, how? When other communities, when you cross the line of communities, you've got to do a lot of diplomacy, internally, you've got to do a lot of communication internally.
Brahim Moussawi, it seems there's at least two visions for Lebanon. How do you see Lebanon coming together on a single vision in the future?
Well, I would say this would take another miracle. I'm sure.
Mission impossible, is it?
Yeah, I mean, it's if there is determination and will among the Lebanese the leaders, the statesmen, if there are real statesmen, I wouldn't believe that it would be a mission impossible. If they really believe in the country, they could come into many common denominators. But the problem has to do with the agendas. Like, I mean, for example, this is something that
Mr. Moussawi, you did pave the way. There is a window of opportunity. It's up to the Lebanese today to be able to say Lebanon first, not certain sector or certain confession or certain community?
Absolutely, but how? I mean, you know, we have two camps in Lebanon. You talk about the Arab moderate countries and the governments and those who are in the line with the Americans and the Western world, and you talk about those who follow the path of the resistance and the mumana'a against the Israelis and the Western camp. So you're talking about two deeply divided camps, I mean, in the country.
Ibrahim al-Moussawi seems to touch on a very sensitive point, that the Lebanese are not kind of allowed to run their own country and to reach something of the nature of national unity, because there are outside factors that tend to breathe into the Lebanese life and conflict on a daily basis.
That's why we're saying the audacity of hope today is to see that Lebanon is independent of regional players, whether it is Egypt, Saudi Arabia, or whether it is the United States and Iran. Lebanon is an independent state, but it has to impress upon the international community that it is an independent state. The day that it will do so is the day that they will get rid of a sectarian system, that they will declare that Lebanon is a non-sectarian state, and that they will normalize Hezbollah's position on the political spectrum, because Hezbollah is there.
Mr. Moussawi, our time has run out. Thank you so much for joining us from Beirut. Next, we will be talking about how Lebanon could be a prototype for the whole region of the Middle East.